Everyone, this is Jason here. Today we're going to be doing the Macdev drone GTI bolt maintenance video. Now the thing is with the bolt, it's the exact same as the standard Macdev drone, just to let everyone know. Now what I'm going to recommend is when you're going to do your bolt maintenance, I believe it's the 1/4 Allen key. When you want to get the bolt out, don't use the flat spot. Go ahead and use the balled end. Only reason why is it gives you a little better grip in there. The flat doesn't go in all the way. So, go ahead and take it, get in there, and just lightly turn it. Once you get it out to a certain point, you can just completely unscrew it by hand. Not a big deal. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the bolt out. Okay, and there's our entire bolt. So let's go ahead and set the gun off to the side here, and we're just going to focus on the bolt. So, like we mentioned in the videos, this gun uses a dump chamber system, or it's a dump spool. So let's go ahead and show you that real quick. There it is. So, theoretically, what happens is when you're going to fire and you pull the trigger, as soon as the bolt moves forward, all air is basically just dumped through the front of the bolt. And I know it sounds horrible, so I do apologize if I laugh a little bit. So, with the marker, you have the back, the dump, and most people just force the bolt through. I actually do like to take off the bolt O-ring and the bolt and the top hat. There you go. So the one good thing that I'm starting to really like about new markers coming out, even this has been going on for a while now, the bolts are getting easier and easier to maintain and easier to tear down. I know with some of the older spools, there was so many components to it, it was ridiculous. Or even, for example, when I had my Macdev clone, the GT, I'm sorry, that thing had so many damn O-rings, it was pathetic. I think it was 17 or 21 O-rings, so it definitely had a lot. So, as always, I recommend a microfiber rag. You can pick these up in a nice big bag full at Target, Walmart, any kind of auto store. Definitely recommend it. And today, we will be using the Macdev Militia Lube. Like we mentioned in the other videos that we've done so far with the Macdev, they've really kicked up the Militia Lube. It's not as runny. It's more of a grease. I'm not going to lie. And it really works good. That's actually what the gun comes pre-lubed with. So, as you can see, this has the back cap, or the back part of the gun, has no O-rings. This is just a Durlin. As you can see, no O-rings, nothing. This, you don't need anything. As a habit, just wipe it down, clean anything, make sure there's no debris, set it to the side. So, we'll go ahead. Now, the dump has one O-ring right here in the front. You can see it pop once I get my nails on it. It's right there where my nail is. So, same thing, just take the micro. Now, I always recommend whenever you're doing any kind of maintenance to your bolt or to your gun, lay an obnoxious towel down. The reason why is if you drop an O-ring or if you drop a spring or anything, it's going to be easier to find. I myself have worked on guns on my carpet, and next thing I know, the spring is gone. So it's my fault. Okay, next is, I always call these top hats. It's basically what the bolt sits in. I know there's different terminologies, but I have always referred to them as top hats. That's just me. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. So, same thing. We'll go ahead and get this nice and clean for you first. Now, this will have the most O-rings. You have, let me get a smaller Allen out so I can actually point to the O-rings without having my hand in the way. There we go. You have one O-ring right here in the front, one right behind it, one near the back, which creates a pressure system between that O-ring and the duralumin back. And inside, this one's going to be really hard to see, so I'm sorry if it's a bad camera angle. You have one right in there as well, which is pretty standard. So we'll go ahead. Now, whenever you have an O-ring that you cannot reach, try putting your finger in there, you can't do it, take an Allen and just very lightly go around. This works great of getting any kind of debris, any kind of excess off. Next, moving on to the bolt. Now, the bolt has, of course, the front O-ring, almost a stopper, and then 2 other O-rings right behind it. So same thing, we'll take the microfiber. Now, the reason why I always like cleaning with the microfiber, it's going to get the most particles off of it, and also it's not going to scratch anything. A lot of times if you use a low-grade paper towel or sometimes shop towels, you can scratch these, and you definitely do not want to scratch your bolts. So we'll take the bolt O-ring, same thing, just clean it up. So believe it or not, it's that simple to clean it. Now we're going to go ahead and lube it. Now, a few things with lubing any part of your marker. First of all, when you're done, wash your hands. A lot of people don't do that, and I'm going to tell you right now, you get the stuff in your eye, it's going to burn a little bit. Now, with the Militia Lube, you don't need a lot, because since this is a grease, it is very slimy. So we're going to start with the dump first. Very little. And let's go ahead and get the camera in on this, because I just want to show you guys the difference with this lube versus the rest. So once it starts to come out, which I'm only squeezing a little bit, look at that. It almost looks like Neosporin or some kind of Vaseline base. So that right there, that little amount is going to be perfect for this O-ring right here. And as you can see, it just puts a haze on the O-ring. That's all it does. So we're going to move that. Now, of course, put a little bit more. Now, when I'm working with a big surface, like you see in my other videos, I actually like to move the lubricant, if it's lube or grease, around my fingers and actually start to spin it. So that then basically my front of my fingers have the actual lube on it. And I don't have to keep reapplying. So as you can see, my fingers still have a nice little haze. So now we'll go ahead and get my first finger in there. And that is really all you need. You don't have to do a whole bunch with this marker, I've noticed. Okay, so same thing. Now with the bolt, I always recommend putting lube throughout the entire bolt. What this is going to do is if you miss an O-ring by accident, or if you didn't get enough O-ring, if you didn't put enough lubricant on the O-ring, this will compensate for it. So of course, by this point, you should have enough on your hands. You can just kind of move this bolt around and be okay. So now we're going to put it back together. We're going to take the bolt. Now, at this point, I know you guys see me do this with the dangerous power. I actually like to kind of start moving everything myself. This is a good habit to get into. So if you're doing this and all of a sudden this bolt is just really hard to move forward, you either do not put enough lubricant or you have a bad O-ring that's catching. Okay, so that's pretty smooth right there. So we will go ahead and put the front O-ring back on. Then the easiest way to put the dump valve in, push the bolt all the way in. Then it goes right in the back, as so. And believe it or not, that is it. Now, what I do recommend, excuse me, anytime you lube your gun, if it's the bolt, if it's the regulator, any part of your gun, I do recommend going outside if you can. Of course, if you're in an apartment complex, you might not want to do that. I always recommend to go outside, turn your eyes off, and just shoot. Just shoot air. That's going to get any kind of excess. If you over-lubed it, if you under-lubed it, you're going to find out real quick instead of going to start playing a first day's, game and find out the hard way. Now, one more O-ring, which I always like to do, is on the back cap, you do have an O-ring just to keep the air from leaking out. At this point, you should have enough on your hand still. Just roll over it a few times and you should be okay. Okay, now, the last thing, when putting this back in, be very careful. And I'm going to show you why. So we're going to go ahead and take the bolt. Put it all the way in. Once you get to a certain point, you can use your thumb, your middle finger, whatever. Push it in. Now, when you get to the point of installing the back cap, get it lined up where the O-ring is completely inside. Turn it by hand first. Okay? As you can see, it's going in really smooth right now. The reason why is if you try, I'll go ahead and back it out and show you. If you try just to slam it in there and start turning, it's going to start giving you issues. The reason why, it is not grabbing the threads. So at this point, if you start torquing it, the only thing you're going to do is completely destroy your threads. So we'll back it out again. So same thing. Get the O-ring in first. Then slowly start to turn it. Now, once you get to the point that you just cannot turn it yourself anymore, get an Allen. Same thing. Definitely use the ballpoint. Slowly start doing it until it's snug. Once it's snug, leave it alone. You don't got to torque it down. You don't have to, manhandle it. When we took out the back cap, you can see there was plenty of threads on there. This thing ain't going to come flying off. So, and of course, I always like wiping down the marker because I usually always end up with grease on it. So other than that, real simple, real quick. Once you do it once or twice, it'll be a breeze to go through. I always recommend cleaning your bolt when you're bored, I hate to say it, or when you know you're going to be playing a lot. Definitely clean it. A well-tuned and a well-lubed gun will not let you down. So other than that, this is Jason with the Macdev Drone GTI bolt maintenance video. Thank you for watching.